All right, so let me share my screen and we will get started. Okay, so I'm going to go into a Blackboard demo course. Hopefully everyone's comfortable at this point with this part of Blackboard. This is what we call ultra base navigation. You'll probably never hear that again, and that's okay. But that's this global navigation over here on the left. And your courses page is where you'll spend most of your time as an instructor. There is also the institution page that is your landing page, and that is where we're going to try to put all the latest information for you. We have some informational modules and things there. So sometimes you have to scroll down to see some of those. So if you log into Blackboard and just want to know what's going on, feel free to scroll down on that page when you log in and just make sure that you're up to date on anything that we have posted there. We do try to keep it up to date as much as possible. Also over here on the courses page, you have a search box. So if you're trying to find a certain course, you can type in part of that course's ID or name and pull it up. You can also hit the little star to favorite a course so that if you want to pin it at the top and find it quicker, you can do that. Our gift to you for attending today is that we've created an Ultra Sandbox course for everyone who registered, at least as far as the list that I had as of yesterday. So if you're a late registration, you may not have it, but you should. If not, feel free to ping me in the chat and I'll make sure that you get one today. But that Sandbox course is yours to experiment with. There's no students anywhere, so it's low stakes. You can't mess anything up. Feel free to use it to play along as I'm demoing some things to you, or you can just watch this back later or whatever you want to do, play around in there, push some buttons, kind of see what everything does and make sure that you're getting more comfortable with it. So let me go right on into a demo course. This is just a demo course, so there's no students. You'll see some information in here, but it's all just kind of colleagues and whatnot. So what I'll start by doing is just kind of a quick overview of the functionality of an Ultra course, and then we'll get a little bit deeper into what the gradebook looks like and how we add content and those types of things. So the biggest difference that you're going to see if you've been in original Blackboard and this is new to you is in original courses, you have your left side navigation menu, and those are kind of anchor points to various parts of your course. Those are content areas, and that's not how this is going to function. This is a different interface. So we have two different menus. There's one across the top here, and that's going to be the anchor points to different parts of your course, but it's not really course content. That's all going to be down here in the bottom, as you can see. So over on the left, we have our details and actions menu, and this is going to be more like the control panel that you may have been used to before. So you can see your course roster, course description, progress tracking is going to give your students sort of a little checklist of what has been done and what still needs to be done, and they get a little bubble beside each item that fills it in when they've completed something. You can change your course image, which you'll see at the top here. You can also click the little pencil to do the same thing. And this image also carries over onto this page. So if you like to customize things and you want to put a banner at the top that also shows up over here, you can do that. I do just recommend if you use words on here that they stay toward the center, because the left and right of this image will get kind of cut off in that other view when it's cropped. So just keep that in mind. We do currently have Class Collaborate in here, which is our class meeting software. But as you may have heard, that's being phased out because it was purchased by a third-party vendor, and we are moving to Zoom. So toward the end of the session, I'm going to show you how you can get Zoom in your class as early as today if you want to. It's there, it's available, and we'll show you that. We also have Teams, which is what we're using today, by the way, and that is kind of designed for the non-academic use, but we also have an enterprise license for that. So you have a couple different choices now as far as how you meet with other people. Also in this menu, we have attendance, which does link to your gradebook if you'd like it to count toward the final grade. It doesn't have to, that's optional. And books and tools is where you can find a list of our third-party tools. Publisher content is going to be in there. Anything that we've integrated into Blackboard, which is a lot. Our Blackboard environment is pretty robust and there's a lot of stuff in there. So you can find a list of that there. And then question banks, also known as test pools. This is where you can store your test questions and organize them and reuse them for various quizzes and tests down the road. So this is kind of your control panel. And then across the top, we have the content area, which is our homepage here. We have a calendar, which at this level is going to be the course calendar. But peeking out on the left, you can see there's also a global calendar, and they do link together. So anything that you update on this course calendar will show up for your students in the global calendar as well, and they're kind of color-coded. Each class has like a different color associated with it, so they can quickly go over there and see what's going on. You can toggle and view the schedule or due dates, and this will just show you upcoming dates in your course. And you can also toggle by day or month. I created this a while back, so this is like old stuff. But if you wanted to create a new event on the calendar other than due dates, because due dates will automatically populate here, you could click new event and add an event. So if you're teaching music appreciation and you want your students to go to a Koger Center event, you could add that event here, just as an example, and it'll show up on their calendar, so they won't miss it. Announcements in Ultra show to students as a pop-up when they enter the course, so it's hard to miss. I appreciate the format that they've created here, where student enters a course and they get a pop-up immediately. You can also choose to email them the announcements so they get it in multiple places. So if you're canceling class or something, maybe we have a hurricane come through, that's a quick way to make sure that they're receiving the message in multiple places. So one of the themes that you'll see across Ultra courses is this plus sign. So anytime you see a plus sign, you can create something or add something. So to create an announcement, we can click on that plus sign, give it a title. By default, it's going to go to all course members. And then you can type out your message here. And when you see these options, this is pretty much every text box in Ultra looks like this. So you can customize your text. There's a handful of text styles and fonts and things that you can choose from. A handful of colors, not garnet, unfortunately, but some basic ones. And so you format this the way that you like. You can add attachments. If you want to create a video recording of yourself welcoming students to class, you can do that too. This will embed a video or audio clip of yourself if you want to go that route. And then here at the bottom, you can choose to send the email to the recipients, so it'll be sent out immediately. You can also schedule the announcement to show up on a certain date and time. As of today, you can't schedule the announcement ahead of time and send it through email, but that is on the roadmap. So they've told us it's coming. I think it's in the next 3 months. It's maybe the next update. So at some point you will be able to pre-schedule an announcement that will also send email. But that's announcement, and then you can save and it'll show up over here on this page. Another theme in Ultra, a couple different things here to mention. There are these little sort buttons. So you'll see these in Gradebook too in just a little bit when I show you that. But if you want to sort by the name of something or how many viewers it has, status, so is it a draft or has it been posted? So anytime you see those little double-headed arrows, those are sort buttons and you can interact with those. Also, the other thing is that the default setting in Ultra courses is that you have to consent to share something with students, and that includes announcements. So when you create something new in here, it's going to create it as a draft. So let me just create a quick example one. so you can see what I mean. Type something out there and save. And so you'll see it's a draft over here, and then you can click post now when you're ready for that to go out to the students. When you're posting grades, it's going to be the same thing. So they wanted instructors to be able to like grade all of the assignments or all attempts for one assignment at once before sharing those results with students. And then you can post them all at once if you like. So you'll see that a couple times as we're going through this, but that is the default. And if you course copy in some announcements from another course, they should all show up as drafts. So you can have a chance to edit those and then post them when you're ready. So that's announcements. Discussions, this is another thing that functions differently, but I like it. I think it's a good change. So the way that discussions worked in original courses is we had this forum and thread model. So it was kind of nested, and you had to drill down to see the discussions. The way that it works in Ultra is that these are individual discussions that you place anywhere in the course content where it makes sense for the flow of the course. And then you can click on discussions at the top of the page to view all of those discussions in one place. So you just have an easier way to quickly see those if you want to. But I'll show you as an example. In week 1 here, we have an introductions discussion. And if I click on that, this is what it looks like. Very simple. When I created it, I had an opportunity just to put the topic up here. It is customizable. You can add attachments and images and everything. And all the student has to do is click on response or type a response, and then they have the same options to attach something or add an image or customize text. So it's kind of a little bit more like a discussion, like a comment thread in social media. And it's relatively straightforward in that way. So if you were a heavy user of discussions before, you may have to kind of rethink how you're using discussions and where it makes sense to put them as individual topics. But it is kind of nice from the student side that you can put the relevant discussion topic in each module. So that's discussions. I'm going to click on Gradebook. Try not to panic. It's not bad, I promise. It just takes a little getting used to. So there is a toggle here. We are currently viewing the list view of Gradebook. We can see the gradable items here. We can also look at our students here and see quickly how they're doing, along with their last access. So you get some information about your students here. Before I dig into Gradebook for a few minutes, also notice this purple ribbon that some students have. That is an accommodation ribbon. And so you can actually come in here. You can do this through your class roster as well. There's 2 places to get to what I'm going to show you. So when I was on content, you can click roster and it'll do the same thing. So over here to the right, if I click the 3 dots, I can select accommodations. And this is where, if you've received the Student Disability Resource Center notice that a student in your course requires an accommodation, you can set up a due date accommodation or a time limit accommodation. And if they have time and a half, you can put 50% because that's adding to the existing 100%. So 100% plus 50 is going to be time and a half. There's also an unlimited time setting. But what's beautiful about this is when we set these accommodations at this level, it's going to carry through the entire course with that student. So you're not going to have to make special exceptions for every test or assignment. It's just going to happen automatically. So do that one time and forget about it. Very useful tool. All right. So let's click here and look at the whole gradebook. Actually, before I go on, and I know you're going to have questions about this, but I promise I'll talk about it some more. I've been talking the whole time and haven't given you a chance to ask questions. How are we doing so far? Are we feeling okay? Have we had any questions come
There's
up
nothing
yet?
in the chat.
Okay, awesome. I'll give you guys just a second. Anything about what I've talked about so far?
Somebody's typing.
Okay, I'll wait just a minute.
And if you want to get on the mic, my big one is whether I can start using Ultra this summer.
Absolutely, you can. That's my favorite question. Yeah. So you should have your summer courses available to you now in the original view. That's the last term. That original will be the default. But if you'd like us to switch on Ultra for you, you can do it yourself if you want. If you make the course unavailable, there should be a pencil that shows up at the top of the course, and you'll have the opportunity to preview and convert. But if you'd like us to convert it for you, you can send us a ticket. Maybe Susan, you can put the link for our ticketing system in the chat.
Okay. I'll do that.
Awesome.
We do have some more questions popped in.
Okay.
Can we change the items listed on top, content, calendar, etc.?
We cannot. So, great question. That's usually the top question that we have been receiving. So the Ultra Course View is a more static menu view. You have less control as an instructor over what shows up in those menus. That is by design, and the main reason is consistency for the students and the instructors and accessibility. So on a screen reader, or if we have low vision or something, students are going to have an easier time finding things if they're consistently in the same place. That's the idea. So the one thing that instructors do have the ability to modify, where is it? It's at the top. You can turn on and off your class roster. That's one of the things that we recently made an update to. We had one instructor, well, I don't think she was the only one, but we had an instructor who was expressing concerns that there were kind of bullying situations or students behaving in ways where they were intentionally excluding certain classmates. And so she wanted the ability to turn off the roster so they couldn't see each other's names. So that is an option. If that's an issue for you, or if you have a justification for that, you can go in here and switch that off. But other than that, there's not much that can be changed.
I'm going to skip questions here because the other one has to do with the details and actions menu. If you do not have a banner picture, how can you add one?
So if we go down here into this details and actions menu and then click course image. So I've uploaded something here. You can also, let me actually remove this and show you how I added it. You can click this little image icon here. And you can upload a picture if you have one already on your device, or we now have free stock images as well. So you can click on Unsplash and search for whatever strikes your fancy. Maybe this is going to be, let's see, we're talking about beekeeping. You can find whatever you like. Maybe it's South Carolina. So lots of cool stuff here. We can choose an image and then click next. Decide which part of this image we want to make our banner and save. Whoops, I didn't save it. There we go. And there you go.
Okay. I'm assuming you're gonna show importing tests from other courses and importing our current class content from Blackboard to Ultra. And so I think there was only one other question is distance education used to have specific Blackboard template they wanted us to use. Do you know if this still is the case? The Center for Teaching Excellence has a template. I don't know about distance education. We can check with Rob.
Yeah, we can check. Not that I know of for Ultra for distance ed. But yeah, as Susan mentioned, CTE does have some great Ultra templates that'll help you get started with kind of just organizing your content. So if you're interested in that, you can send us a ticket request and we can copy that template over into your course for you to play around with. Or if you have somebody at CTE that you're already working with, they can just grab that for you as well. Um, but because Ultra is so simple and streamlined, I will show you a little bit about adding content and how to organize it. And you'll see it's pretty simple to create a streamlined course. But completely understandable if you want some help getting started.
And some departments may be leaning toward making their own templates and common folders that everybody, all the people who teach in their program, have certain resources and that sort of thing. And more departments and programs, I think, are going to do that because it is so easy here.
Okay,
So that
great
covers all the
questions.
questions, as long as you show them how to get things from their other classes.
Yep, I will. It's on my list. I'm gonna
Thanks for
do a
yes.
quick.
Thanks for
Yeah.
taking that break, though. That was good.
Yeah. I'm going to quickly look at Gradebook with you and just kind of talk about a couple things there, and then we'll get more into the course content stuff. I didn't plan to talk much about analytics or groups unless there are specific questions about those. I'll try to leave enough time that if you want to see one of those things, I can do that. But I want to make sure I cover the most important things, obviously, first. So let's pop back into Gradebook real quick. So this is our grid view or tile view of Gradebook, and it looks a little maybe more familiar to what you are expecting. So anything that we create in our course content that's gradable is automatically going to have a column here. So that's the way it's always functioned. It's still going to do that for you. One of the biggest differences is this overall grade is going to take the place of both the total and weighted total column. In the past, you may have used weighted total if you wanted to go with more of a percentage-based system for grading, or you may have just used the total column to aggregate points and just show a total score. So with this, you can actually choose which one you prefer to show. So let me just edit that really quick. When you come into your sandbox, by the way, there's usually like a little banner across the bottom that says set up your overall grade. So Blackboard really wants you to do that because this is a great way to communicate to your students how they're doing, and they'll see this color-coded thing here too, green for A and kind of so on until F is red. So I have this one set up with a weighted total, but if I wanted to just show raw points, I could click on points and it would do that for me. You can also choose how it's displayed to students. So I keep this at letter, but I've had a couple people ask, can my students just see their total points as the grade? And if you wanted to, you could do that as well, or percentage or so on. So what this will do is it's based on categories. So when you first come in here, Blackboard is going to try to choose the categories that they think align best, but you can customize all this. So like I have 3 items under tests, for example. Currently in this course, tests are worth a total of 10%. This doesn't include the final. I have the final worth 5% out here by itself. So if I wanted to remove one of these items from the category and just make it a standalone item, I could click this little unlink button and it would show up on its own, just like final exam does. And then you can customize the percentage that that is worth. So kind of just play around with all of that, and you can change percentages. There's not anything under exam, so I should probably, actually, I can also just hit this button and just exclude it. So now we're at 90%. Let's add another 10% here. We'll say this is worth 15%. There you go. So you can kind of see how that works. If you really love doing math, you can also hit advanced, and there's some parameters that you can create your own algorithm for the grade. I am not a math person, so I'm not going to be doing that, but you could if you wanted to. So this is going to show the overall grade. To grade an assignment, I don't know if I have any that are ungraded here, but that's okay. So to grade an assignment, you can come over here to the student's attempt and then view. It would just say new submission there if there were a new submission. And when this opens up, this is going to be the same grading stuff here that you've always had. The box view, I think they called it. And you can annotate. So there's comments, there's some different annotation tools in here. You can add a little stamp or text box or draw something if you want to put like a little circle around something. So you can annotate this to your heart's desire. And then over here to the right, we can pop this out. This one was also a safe assignment. So it did a little originality report for us so we could see which part of this might have been plagiarized. And you can give your overall feedback here. This is what will go to your students. And then you're going to type the grade up here in this little pill. They call it a grade pill because it's kind of pill shaped. If you've ever used Ultra before, there used to be two little pills up here. One was to type in and one was to reflect the final grade. And the users expressed that that was a little complicated and they would rather just see one. And Anthology, Blackboard's parent company, listened to that feedback and changed it literally like yesterday, so that there's only one place to put in the number now, which I think is a huge improvement. So there it is. You can also see that this is posted, but like I was saying before, the default is to fill out all your grades and then post them to the students. So I'll show you how I did that. We also have some flexible grading options in here. So the current view is by student. We can also, if this were a test or something with questions in it, we could grade by question. So let's say we have a test that's all multiple choice and one essay question. The multiple choice would be graded automatically for you because you can tell Blackboard what the answer is for each question and it will grade accordingly. But if you have an essay question, that will require a human to grade it. So you could click on grade by question, just select that one essay question, and then go down the line and grade each student's attempt for that question. And then it would show the final grade for the test. So that's kind of neat. To post the grades, once I've given the grades, you would click on this top level here, and you can just click, it would say post grades, I think, or post all. And then you could click on that and it would automatically show everything to your students. Now, if you have a manual column that you want to add, so let's say you want, like this participation grade is a manual grade. This is just something that I want to stick in here for students. Maybe it's an extra credit column that you want to add. You can add something new. And I'm kind of favoring this view because this is my preferred way to look at things, but you can do all of this stuff in the list view as well. You can click where you want to add something new and click that plus sign and add item here. And let's call this extra credit. And the way that I'm going to delete the due date, we don't actually need one for this. The way that extra credit works in Blackboard, this is a little bonus for you, is you set it to 0 points because obviously if we're expecting points from them, then it's not extra credit, right? So I'm going to say this is worth 0 points and save it. And then to include it in the final grade, I would also want to modify that overall grade and make sure that extra credit is in fact one of the columns showing up that's going toward the final grade so that it would add points above and beyond what they've already earned. But to grade these, we can just click in there, press enter, and Then if you want them to see the grades, whoops, I sorted or filtered. To post these, you just click on that top view and then post.
Katie,
Yeah.
hopefully I'm not messing up your flow here, but there's a question that's perfect timing. Can I change the gradebook overall grade allocation later in the course, or can I just add assignments as I go during the semester?
You can change the overall grade when you need to. If you need to make changes to it throughout the course, that's fine. The nice thing though is if you're using categories, which Blackboard does by default put categories on everything for you. So if you have custom categories, this might not be entirely true. But if you're using the ones Blackboard gives you, so assignment, test, those types of things, you can set the value, like the percentage of each category. And then it's automatically going to be putting things into those categories for you as the class goes on, if that makes sense. So you can set it and then it will hypothetically kind of do the work for you as you keep adding assignments and things, as long as they're using those existing categories. But the short answer is yes, you can make changes. Just try to be in line with what you told them in your syllabus. Is that the right answer?
And then since I've interrupted you, can I go ahead and ask the other question? Does Blackboard check for does it check for being written by AI? And I had started to type in the idea of that it's an AI assistant for designing courses, and it does not. But do you have any other insight into that?
So we've asked our vendors this a couple times. We've talked to people at SafeAssign on behalf of instructors, and we've had conversations with Anthology, Blackboard's parent company. And the consistent answer we've been receiving is there are some AI tools built in here to help instructors, but it's mostly to help create some generic modules and things. It's not designed to like teach your course for you or anything like that. But when it comes to students using AI, it's really, really difficult for even the best tools that we have available right now to detect if something's been written with AI, partly because it's constantly evolving and changing, and partly because some of these tools that attempt to detect AI, what they're looking for is certain patterns of a writing style, maybe some repetition or different types of diction. And what they're finding is that sometimes these tools accuse students of plagiarizing when actually they may just be learning English as a second language or on the spectrum, or there might be certain reasons why they have a certain style of writing that it might think is AI. So kind of the recommendation is teach to your students, teach in a way that checks their knowledge as much as possible, rather than just give me an essay, project-based, competency-based. These are all things that we're hearing more about. And I'm not an instructional designer. I know CTE has several on staff that could talk about the pedagogy behind some of this. But there's a whole big conversation around that in the ed tech world right now. And I think we're still kind of getting a grasp on what all that looks like. I know that was almost a non-answer, but that's kind of what we've received when we've asked about it. Does that help at all?
Yeah, and that's the way I understand it too, that they're just doing it as a design assistant almost.
Right, exactly.
Good, thank you. I think that's all the questions. And again, sorry for jumping in, but it was perfect.
No, I'm glad you are. I think this is good. We're still doing okay on time. I was just trying to save enough to talk about course content and things, but this is really great. So the last thing that I'll mention about Gradebook here is these tools across the top of your Gradebook. So there is a filter, so you can pull up different, you can look at a certain student. If they're coming to visit you and want to look at their grade, you can pull up just the row with them in it, so you're not showing other student data. You can pull up group information if you have groups in your course, pull up a certain item, a category. So you can use all these sort and filter options to view different things. If you have a merged course, this filter will also list the child courses. So if you want to view one section at a time, you can do that too. You can search for submission receipts here. So if a student turns something into you, they will receive a submission receipt, both as a pop-up and in their email. And if they say, I submitted this, and you say, I didn't receive that, they should be able to provide you with a submission receipt number. If they cannot, it's possible they're telling you a story or that they saved something as a draft by mistake. So that's just a good way to check. We still have upload and download options here. So if you want to download like a CSV Excel spreadsheet of your gradebook, you can do that. And then the settings are here for Gradebook. So if you want to change the grading schema, for example, or we have automatic zeros as a default. If you prefer not to have automatic zeros, you can turn off that feature. So you can find all those detailed things in settings. So that's Gradebook. That's kind of the quick overview. So let's hop over into the meat of the course, our course content. So because original Blackboard courses are divided up by links in the left side of the course, you may not have had to design very much. You may have just had things kind of in folders or dumped in each course content area, which is completely fine. That's what it was designed for. But because of this layout, which is very vertical and linear, we're going to need to organize by folders and modules here so that it makes sense for your students. It needs to be cohesive, it needs to be something that they can easily find what they need. So in this example, I have a folder with a couple start here items in there. There's a, what do I have in here? You will find a verify attendance folder. It's starting in the fall. It's going to be there. There's a whole blurb that you're welcome to read when you see it in your course. Don't delete it right away. Read it, see what it is. It's like a government mandate to make sure that students are attending the classes that they're signing up for. It's a whole thing beyond our scope, but we were just asked to put it there. So there it is. There's also the syllabus and schedule that I've put in here. And then there it is. We have Zoom. And the way that I've added Zoom so that you can do it too is when we're creating something new, as an aside here, we're looking for our plus sign, right? So this plus sign is within a folder. If I wanted to put it at the top level of my course, I could hover anywhere else. But what I did here is I clicked on my plus sign. And for this purpose, I want to look at the content market. This is the same thing as the books and tools that shows up at the bottom of the details and actions menu. So if you want to add your tool to a vendor link, publisher, company, something that we have integrated with Blackboard, including Zoom, we can click on Content Market. Zoom starts with a Z, so it's at the bottom. It's the last one. And then when I click this little plus sign, it's going to create a link to Zoom in our course. So let me take a really quick second to show you what that looks like, since it is shiny and new. And I know there will be some questions, and we do plan to have more sessions just devoted to getting more comfortable with Zoom as a tool for teaching and things. Throughout the pandemic, some of you may have become comfortable with Zoom already. You may not need to know this. I was one of the few that didn't really use Zoom too much. I was FaceTiming people in 2020. I wasn't really on Zoom, but it's here. And if I wanted to schedule a new meeting, I can click on schedule a new meeting. The default name of the meeting will be your course name. So you probably want to give it a more descriptive name. And then optional description, set your date and time. How long is the meeting? is it recurring? So if you're doing this for like a synchronous online course, you might want to set up the recurring meeting for Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or whatever it is. And then you can turn off the passcode. I don't think that's required, but it is the default. I think if you join through the class, though, it's automatically put in the background. I think it's one of those situations. Turn the waiting room off if you just want them to pop right in. So set up your settings and then click save. And your meetings will, your meetings will be listed here for you. I have one that I set up for today. I'm actually going to test it out and meet with someone and make sure that everything is a go. So you can also see your previous meetings, cloud recordings. At some point, hopefully by the time fall courses start, your Zoom recordings will automatically be stored in a tool that we have called Panopto. You may or may not have ever heard of Panopto. It will probably become a familiar word to you. And I'm going to actually throw that in here too, so you can see. I'm not going to have time to like go in depth with it, but Panopto Video Main, for those of us on the comprehensive campuses, there is also going to be a law school version of Panopto. So if anyone happens to be with the law school, they have their own Panopto license. But I'm just going to do the main one. And this is where you can share recorded video content with your students, or you can use it as just a storage place to put your videos and then edit them a little bit. There's a lot of functionality in there. And the lovely thing about Panopto is it's going to hold on to your stuff a lot longer than some of the other methods we've had of storing video content. So if you're afraid of losing something and you want a good long-term storage option, Panopto is the way to go there. So that was a quick aside for those couple of things. But let me get into like the modules and things too a little bit more.
Katie, I
So,
do have a question that came up here that I don't know the answer to. I have not been experimenting with Zoom myself. Can you schedule an open session to run 24/7 for students to hop into for one-on-one help? I use two, one for class and another tab for open session support. Do you know if you can have one like, a course
yeah,
room is what they
there's a
call it in
personal,
Collaborate?
they have a personal meeting room, is what they call it here, which I believe is just always open and you can provide somebody with the URL to join it. So I think that's what this is kind of a Zoom room that comes with your enterprise license. So you can just click start this meeting and pop right into it. Yeah, so this is kind of like the course room was in Collaborate. This should be the same type of deal. And you can send someone the URL if you want them to quickly join you. Is that kind of what you were
Yes,
looking for?
I think so. It answers it for me.
Yeah.
The other one, Ree has given a resource about USC Zoom, and asking about inviting people to Zoom, like guest speakers, and can you make meetings for non-class specific events?
Yeah. So when we're scheduling a new meeting, we have the option. So you can say only authenticated users can join. And if you do that, then they have to come in through USC's system. But if you leave that unchecked and if there's a passcode, you should be able to um, get the guest speaker to just pop in the passcode and join it that way. Let me just create one and see. We're learning together. I keep accidentally closing out the whole thing when I don't mean to. I believe, yeah, so there is, once we create it, we can copy the meeting invitation. So I would probably just copy and paste this to the guest speaker, and it should have the meeting ID and passcode, so they can quickly just join the meeting. It's possible, since they're unauthenticated, that you'll have to let them in. But if that happens, you would get a pop-up. So you can use your sandbox to add a Zoom link in practice and invite your friends and kids and colleagues to join you and make sure everything works the way you want it to.
Okay, good. And then switching gears a little, Panopto for students. Zoom is for students. Panopto is not. Am I right?
Yeah, so Panopto students will
Although
be
you
able
can
to
do an assignment. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can do assignments in Panopto. There's a couple options there. We should do a full session on just Panopto. I'm going to make a note of that because
Yeah.
we are going to be talking about this a lot in the upcoming months. I can click on it and show you kind of the quick what it looks like. So it kind of just looks like this simple kind of deal. You can create a recording here, so you can just like record a video. You can capture what you're doing in your browser. So if you want to make a screen capture of something you're demonstrating on your screen, you can upload media to it. You can create a new folder. So maybe this is whatever you want it to be. And then
we have some enthusiastic yes, please Panopto session. And we also have, I use Panopto frequently. It's a great tool.
yay!
Yes,
I'm
I'm
glad to
writing
hear
your
that.
name down. So
Do you want to do a session?
Yes.
It is a really helpful tool. So let's say I wanted to upload media here. I don't even know if I have anything to share on this computer. I think I have a picture of my dog. We'll see.
And someone else is pointing out, I think you can do embedded quizzes on Panopto. And yes, you're right.
I have a movie of my dog, actually. So if you upload a video here, it's going to process. And by the way, as we're getting away from Collaborate, you may have some Collaborate sessions that you had used before that you want to capture to be used at a later date. They will disappear forever if you wait too long. We're working on some course retention and data retention stuff. And so if you have important to you videos in Collaborate, download those and upload them into Panopto, and it will be there forever or for years to come anyway. So just a little plug there. So here's a video. You can do some things with it. You can change the settings. You can share it. So you can get a link for it or embed it somewhere. So this is where you can put your course content videos, and then you can actually use this as a launching place to just put stuff that you want to then share with the class. Yeah, so that's about all I'm going to have time to say today, I think, about Panopto, but I promise we will get something on the calendar, probably a couple over the summer, to get you all more comfortable with Panopto, because it's a great tool. And it does have some editing capabilities too.
And Ree is pointing out that Collaborate will be removed from Blackboard, including access to recordings on May 15th. So you want to download any that you want to reuse from Collaborate before the 15th of May.
Yes, thank you for saying that. Yeah, unfortunately, we wanted to put Zoom over here in this menu, and there just isn't a way right now. Class Collaborate used to be a built-in tool before they were purchased away from Blackboard. So they had this special kind of real estate here, but we can't customize and put Zoom there. So that's why I demonstrated how to add Zoom. So if you want to use it, you do need to go in there, hit your plus sign, go to the content market, and put that link in your class. And if you want to use Panopto but don't want it to be visible to students, you can just hide it from them and just have it in here as a way for you to access your materials. Okay, so moving on real quick to course content. We just have a little bit of time. We have like 9 minutes left, and I'm happy to stay for a few extra minutes afterwards if there are more questions and if we're at time, just so that's out there. So the main difference between a module and a folder is that folders are just here to hold things for you. It's just a bucket of storage. Modules have a little more customization. So as you can see, you can put a cute little picture here. We can edit this. Or if I were to create it by hitting our plus sign and create, either way, we have a description we can add here. They do have the forced sequence option for modules. So if you want your students to move through the module from top to bottom in order, you can do that. Folders don't have that option. And I added an image here. We do actually have the same Unsplash images available to you. So if you're teaching a class about a specific topic, you can search for photos in that realm and make sure everything kind of looks nice and, related to what you're doing. Or if you want to get really crazy and try the AI image generator tool, you can do that. I will give the caveat, I haven't had a lot of success with human faces in the AI tool. So feel free to do with that what you will. But kind of interesting. And then anywhere, this is old alternative text from a different image I had in there. You can mark an image as decorative in here, or you can add alternative text for someone that might be on a screen reader so that it'll describe what that image is. And then I didn't forget about the course copy question. In here, you can click on your plus sign and copy content. So if you're building a class from scratch for the first time, you're probably going to be doing a lot of the create button to come up with tests, assignments. A form is like a survey, but at this point it's not anonymous yet. So if you just want feedback from students, you can create a form. Just know that it's not going to be truly anonymous yet. Discussion, all of this stuff is here if you want to build it fresh. But to copy, we're going to go to copy content. And any course that you've been an instructor in should be listed here. So if you are like us and have just a ton of stuff in here, you can search for a specific thing. And then you can click on the course and you can drill down as far as you like. This is very granular and I love this feature. I found it very useful. So if I just want one or two things out of this course, I can go in and I can just click on something. That's not a real meeting. So when I select an item, maybe that's this, honestly, this might be a really old course. Maybe I need to pick a different one. Let's just click the top level here. So you can click at any of these levels and just pull in an entire folder or module. Anyway, long story short, when you grab what you want, it's going to show over here like a little shopping cart, and you can pull from multiple courses at once. So if I have something else that I want to grab, I can do that. And it's going to just put all this stuff here in a row, and then you can start the copy. There's a couple ways you can do this. If you have a blank slate ultra course and you want to copy in all of the contents of a previous course, you can just come to the top and say course copy, find the course, and just do that top level copy everything button. If you do that, bringing original stuff into Ultra may not be very pretty. It might be a little bit bulky and just have a lot of scrolling before you can see everything in here. You might have to reorganize it. For that reason, I have been partial recently to that granular course copy option, and I just create my modules. I go in here, I copy in just the items I want for that module, and then I keep going. And then I go to the next module, copy in the items that I want here, and so on. So how you decide to do that is completely up to you. You don't have to, there's not like one way you have to do it. But know that your original content won't create modules by default. It will create folders. And those are, like I was saying, not as customizable, don't have as many options. So if you want modules with images and customization, you'll have to create those and put stuff in there. We are happy to consult with you one-on-one as much as we're available. I know there's only so many of us, but we are in the process of filling 2 positions on our team that we're we were currently down 2 people, or previously. And so we are here to help you. That ticketing system that we talked about in the beginning, you can create a request for us to meet with you. We're a remote team, so we typically meet just like this, and we screen share, and we're Blackboard admins, so we can go in and just do things in your course with and for you if you like. If you want some help organizing the first time in Ultra, we can do that. CTE also meets with people all the time. They have instructional designers and they are on campus. So if you prefer an in-person experience, that might be the preferred method. What am I
Katie, can I,
forgetting?
while you're still got that screen up, the visible to students, hidden from students, and the release conditions, the question came up about being able, can I still date the modules so they're made available to students on a specific date?
Absolutely. That's a great thing
Thank
to
you.
mention here. Yeah. Oh, and then there's one thing I forgot to tell you that I will real fast, but visibility. So if we click on this little arrow, it should by default be hidden from students when you first create things in here, because again, they don't want you to show things to students until you want to. Then you can make them visible, or you can hit release conditions and you can release on a certain date and time, show and hide. Or if you want to have a student complete module 1 before they move on to module 2, you could say module 2, let's say I'm editing module 2. Module 2 will open when they complete the quiz at the end of the first module. So you could say they have to get 80 or higher on this to move on to the next thing. So you can do all those there. And then the other thing I wanted to mention really quickly is the dots at the top here, the 3 dots. If we click on that and then batch edit, if you've brought in a bunch of content, you can actually come in and edit the dates and visibility for these kind of in a batch way. So if you want to select multiple things and then edit dates, you can change specific dates and times, or you can say what this means. This is a little misleading to me. You can say this was the first day of classes for my previous term with this content, and then this is the new first day of classes. So if this was a fall date and then you want to put a spring date, just put the old first day of classes and the new first day of classes, and it'll automatically adjust all of your due dates based on those dates. You can also edit visibility and make everything hidden or visible that you've checked here. So I find that tool to be very useful. You can also do the course copy from here. You can import content if you have something saved as like a zip file. Lots of ways to do this. So let me stop and come back over to the meeting here. And we are at time, but like I said, I'll hang out if there are more questions. I have a little bit more time. Happy to answer those. If not, thanks for being here. Feel free to play with that sandbox course and let us know if you have questions. Jim, did you have a question?
Yeah, mine might be not applicable to everyone, but I teach a course that's pass-fail, but it's competency based. So there's basically 6 things you have to do if you're competent in all 6 things. But some things you have to get 80 out of 100 in, and some things you just got to get 1 out of 1 in. So using a point thing at the end just wouldn't work, and using percentage doesn't work. So how would I do that?
Yeah, so let me look at a couple things. So in Gradebook, one of the options to display things to students is complete incomplete. I don't know if that might be helpful.
That's what I use in the old version.
Okay, so hopefully that would work for you. You can also, if you don't ever set up this overall grade, it won't show up for students. So you could temporarily, until we decide what the best route is, just not use the overall grade. And then these individual columns should also have the same option for, yeah, complete, incomplete. So did you do it or did you not? So hopefully that would satisfy what you're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to help.
Katie, there is another question. If you have a video file, lecture, or interview on a cloud-based service like OneDrive, are we still able to upload those video files directly into Ultra? And is there a file size limit similar to old Blackboard?
So there should be a way to upload content from your OneDrive. If we do, oh, cloud storage.
Cloud storage.
Yep. So if you click the plus sign and select cloud storage, OneDrive is one of the options, and you can create a link between your course and your OneDrive. I think that there are some sort of size limits, but I feel like they're bigger than they were in original courses. The general rule is, right, if it's a huge video file or something, post a link to it. Don't try to upload a massive video.
Yeah, absolutely, because you've got students who don't have the ability to watch a video on their computer, their phone, their, Chromebook, whatever they're using. So it's best practice not to put the file actually in Blackboard. Never has been a good idea, but to link to it.
Yeah.
When will we see our sandbox courses?
They should be out there now, unless you joined late. Wendy, I'll check really quick on my end and see if we have one out. I think I saw your name on one.
Well,
double check.
You want me to double check that while you show how to create a student group that are assigned randomly?
Absolutely.
And I'll check for Wendy.
Okay, awesome. Let me get back into my demo and I'll show you the groups. No problem. Okay, so if we are going into groups up here at the top, I have some sets that I've created in here. So when we go to create a new group set, we're just going to click up here and name your group set. So this is kind of just like groups for, I don't know, let's say project. And then we can make it visible to students up here at the top. And so we have some options here. We can randomly assign. So if that's what you're looking to do, we can click on that. And you can just determine how many groups do you want to have. This is a really small class because it's not real students, but we can say 4 groups of 2, however we want to do that. These are still customizable, so if it pairs people that you don't want to be paired, you can still move these students into a different group and have a little control over that if you need to. Let's just say group 1. Oops. I don't like that it says new group, so I like to change that. Or you could call it team 1 or whatever group names you want to get creative with. And once we save that, so we have our group sets in place. And then the way that Ultra has you using groups as you go into the assignment or discussion, whatever it is that needs to be a group assignment. And when you're creating it, so I'm going to create, we'll say this is going to be an assignment. We'll say group project, whatever it might be. I'm going to make this visible to students. You can customize all this good stuff, due date, grading, whatever. If you want to add a little text box with instructions, by the way, a default text box is coming. That's another roadmap item. But for now, if you want to add something here, you just add a text box. And then in our settings, we can scroll down. It's pretty far down, I believe. Yep, and we can assign it to groups. We can say we want to use our groups for project. So I'm going to choose the group set that I created for this project and save. And save again, and that is done. So that's what it's going to look like now. And the students will only see this item if they are in a group. So I had someone come to me recently and say, I'm building my course, I set up some groups, I'm using student preview to check on those groups, and I can't see the group stuff. Well, that's actually intentional because you have to be in a group to see the group content, and your student preview user isn't in a group, right? So they couldn't see it there, but it was there. So as long as it says visible to students and assigned to groups, your students will see it. Does that make sense? Let me come back over.
And
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I had that question, and my follow-up question was, since I'm playing around with a sandbox, and I don't have any students, obviously, in the sandbox group, do you guys, is there a way for me to create test students so I could kind of see how it works and maybe see, log in through them, through one of the test student setting or something, so I could actually see the layout?
Yeah. So actually this student preview button takes the place of creating fake student accounts. So a long time ago, we would just create, dummy student accounts if you needed one, but this will do that for you. So if you click on student preview and start preview, you can interact with your course as if you're a student, and it's going to show you what it looks like for them. So you can see, like, this is that kind of to-do list that I talked about. And if students interact with something, it'll put this half bubble and then they can mark it as complete when they've done it. Oh, this one is an assignment, so they have to actually submit for that to work. But you can navigate through the course, and then when you exit, it's going to say, do you want to save the student preview user before leaving the session? And if I save that data, it's going to give you in Gradebook this student preview user. It'll say your name, preview user, and that's going to be your dummy account to practice giving grades to or whatever you might need to do.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And Wendy, can you see your sandbox course now?
When I type that in, nothing comes up for me. Do I need to?
Now, you may need to go out and come back in again. Are you logging in with W. Valerio, or are you doing Wendy Valerio? Because you actually have two accounts in here. One was created for something. I'm not sure why, but that's where the original sandbox had been put.
My network username is WH Valeri. So that's what pops up, and I just automatically sign in with that.
Okay. We can make a note of that. It might be that we have the sandbox.
You're right.
Assigned to the...
Yeah, it's got, well, except it's just spelled wrong. The core, it shows WVALERIO -UCV -sand.
I see that, but when I type that in, I don't see anything. Nothing pops up. I'm trying it again though.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question in the meantime?
Of course.
So so let me just make sure that I understand. So when I'm creating assignments, I will do that now from the Gradebook. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. Let me get back over and share my screen one more time here.
Because in the old settings, you had a tab that was like assignments at the top, and you could just pull up you want a test or quiz or whatever.
Right. So for those in here, that's all going to go in this course content area. So I had shown that what I did in this course is I started by creating the modules I wanted. So I did create and then learning module to create these kind of little buckets to put things in. And then inside one of those, I clicked the plus sign, create, and then assignment. So this is going to take you to where you can create a new assignment in there. And then I also showed course copy. So if you have some old assignments you want to reuse, you can also go to copy content and locate the courses that you wanted to pull from, and then which content you wanted to bring in.
Got it. Thank you. I apologize if that was discussed. I had a student in my office, so I got interrupted about midway through your recording. So if you addressed it, I'm sorry.
No, not a problem at all. It's all good.